What makes the Earth we live on so special? 2 words.
This is Tower.
It's alive. The Earth's structure is unlike any of the other planets in our solar system. Several layers make up the interior of Earth, the 3 main layers being the core, the mantle, and the crust. The core is the inner part of Earth and measures about 1,800 miles below the surface. It's a ball-like structure made of iron and nickel and is divided into 2 sections, the inner core and the outer core. The inner core is the actual solid center of the Earth. The outer core is so hot with temperatures that reach 6,700 degrees Fahrenheit that the surrounding metals are always molten hot. The mantle, which is the large layer above the core, is split into the upper and lower layers and makes up around 80% of Earth's total volume. The mantle cools the heat that's being released from the core and creates energy called convection currents. These convection currents are what keep the Earth's crust in constant motion. The crust is the hard outer shell just above the mantle, the surface in which we're living on. There are 2 types of crust, the oceanic crust and the continental crust. The crust of the Earth has a rocky, rigid outermost shell called the lithosphere. The lithosphere is made up of a number of moving pieces, which are called tectonic plates. Currently, there are 9 large tectonic plates and 12 smaller ones. The continental plates make up the continents, and the oceanic plates make up the seafloor. The movements of these plates is what's known as an earthquake. Earthquakes occur by the thousands every day all around the world. Usually they're small and go unnoticed. However, they can also be extremely large and destructive. About 80% of the planet's earthquakes occur along the rim of the Pacific Ocean, which is called the Ring of Fire. Most of these earthquakes occur at fault lines where tectonic plates collide or slide against one another. There are many fault lines visible around the world, and they appear as large cracks in the Earth. There are 3 types of faults: the dip-slip fault, the strike-slip fault, and the oblique-slip fault. Dip-slip faults occur as reverse or normal. A normal fault occurs when the Earth's crust is extended and the hanging wall moves downward relative to the footwall. A reverse fault is opposite, causing the shortening of Earth's crust and the hanging wall to move up relative to the footwall. Strike-slip faults are vertical, and the footwall moves either right or left laterally. Left lateral motion is known as a central fault, and the right lateral motion is known as a dextral fault. Oblique slip faults are a measurable mixture of dip-slip and strike-slip features. The sudden slip of a fault releases energy called seismic waves, which are measured as P waves and S waves. P waves are alternating pulses that stretch and compress rock, moving the Earth in one general direction. S waves shake rock from side to side and up and down, making the Earth roll. The most active fault line in the United States is the San Andreas Fault, part of the Ring of Fire, which runs 800 miles along the coast of California. One of the most active fault lines in the world is the North Anatolian Fault, which stretches 600 miles from northern Turkey to the Black Sea. Scientists who study earthquakes are called seismologists. Seismologists use a magnitude rating to describe the strength and duration of earthquakes' seismic waves. The rating system is called the Richter scale, which was invented by an American seismologist named Charles Richter in 1935. According to the scale, an earthquake measuring 3 to 5 is considered minor or light, 5 to 7 is moderate to strong, 7 to 8 is major, and 8 or more is great. It's estimated that a magnitude 8 earthquake strikes somewhere around the world every year, and around 10,000 people die in earthquakes annually. That being said, it's important to remember that earthquakes do not kill people. Earthquake hazards do. Collapsing buildings claim the majority of lives, and the destruction is often caused by landslides, liquefaction, fires, ground displacement, and tsunamis. On April 18, 1906, at 5:12 a.m., a magnitude 7.8 earthquake hit the city of San Francisco, California. The shaking lasted nearly a minute, and the devastation that followed earned it the nickname the Great Earthquake of 1906. There were over 700 deaths and 28,000 buildings destroyed. The earthquake sparked fires, which turned into huge infernos that burned out of control for nearly 3 days. An estimated 600 city blocks burned in the process. 83 years later, on October 17, 1989, at 5:04 p.m., a magnitude 6.9 earthquake hit the city of San Francisco, California once again. The shaking lasted less than a minute, and the devastation was unbelievable. There were 63 deaths and over 3,800 injuries sustained during the earthquake. Over 28,000 homes and businesses were damaged, and perhaps the most shocking of all the destruction was the collapse of a section of the Bay Bridge and the collapsed upper deck of Oakland's 880. The worst damage happened in the Marina District. San Francisco was built on unstable land. Mud and sand were dropped to fill shallow waters, and because the constant movement of the San Andreas Fault, the sand never compacted properly. The shockwaves from the earthquake turned the unstable soil into slush in a process called liquefaction. The shaking caused homes and businesses to fall over and sink into the ground like quicksand. On August 17, 1999, at 3:01 a.m., a magnitude 7.4 earthquake hit the city of Izmit, Turkey. The city was built directly over the North Anatolian Fault, and while the city was thought to be earthquake resistant, Mother Nature proved otherwise. Between 30,000 and 40,000 people were killed, most as a result of collapsing buildings. Many of the buildings straddling the fault line were literally torn apart. On March 27, 1964, at 5:36 p.m., a magnitude 9.2 earthquake hit the Prince William Sound region of Alaska. The earthquake lasted about 4 minutes, and in the first 24 hours, 11 aftershocks with a magnitude greater than 6.0 were recorded. The shaking triggered many landslides and avalanches, and damages totaled more than $400 million. The number of deaths totaled 131. Like many earthquakes of this size, a tsunami was triggered, and it was the second largest ever recorded at the time. Since the year 1900, there have been 5 earthquakes measuring 9.0 or greater. The 1960 Great Chilean Earthquake, which had a magnitude of 9.5, the 1964 Good Friday Alaskan Earthquake, which had a magnitude of 9.2, the 2004 Indonesian Earthquake, which had a magnitude of 9.1, the 1954 Russian Kashmata Earthquake, which had a magnitude of 9.0, and the 2011 Tohoku Earthquake, which had a magnitude of 9.0. What do they all have in common? Tsunamis. Tsunamis are generated when the ocean floor is disturbed by seismic activity. The water above the disturbed areas is displaced from its equilibrium, generating waves that travel under the influence of gravity. The waves travel for miles across open ocean, and as the waves reach shallower waters, they gain height. Due to the immense volume of water and the high amounts of energy that are involved, Tsunamis often devastate the regions they strike. On December 26, 2004, at 7:58 a.m., a 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Indonesia and lasted between 8.3 and 10 minutes. It caused the entire planet to vibrate as much as 1 centimeter and triggered other earthquakes as far as Alaska. The earthquake itself was devastating. However, the chain of tsunamis that followed killed over 230,000 people in 14 different countries. Of the countries affected, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand were the hardest hit. Earthquakes are perhaps the most dangerous of all natural disasters because they strike within seconds with no warning and no opportunity for escape. They cannot be predicted and they cannot be prevented. According to the CDC's website, during an earthquake, there are actions you can take to reduce your chances of being hurt. Tips include taking cover under a desk or table, standing in door frames away from windows, if at all possible, staying away from glass or hanging objects and large furniture that could fall, and covering with something to shield your head and face from falling debris and broken glass. If the power goes out, use flashlights, not candles, matches, or lighters, due to the possibility of a gas leak. California has a great preparedness program called the Great California Shakeout. Every year the Shakeout holds statewide drills in order to practice and teach the skills necessary to promote safety and reduce death or injury during an earthquake. In 2008, I happened to be visiting Disneyland and participated in the Shakeout. What's the message of the Shakeout? Drop, cover, and hold on. These are photos of my dad and I practicing. They say to drop, crawl under a table, and hold on until the earthquake is over. However, if you're in bed, you're supposed to cover your head with a pillow and your body with a blanket to help protect yourself from falling objects. On March 11, 2011, at 5:46 p.m., a magnitude 9.0 earthquake hit off the coast of Honshu, Japan. A tsunami soon followed, adding to the devastation. A month has passed. Japan is in a nuclear meltdown. Aftershocks as big as 7.5 are still being felt. The death toll is up to 13,116, and the missing is at 14,377. Unfortunately, those totals will rise in the coming months as Japan starts the daunting task of cleaning up. No matter how much one prepares for an earthquake, you can always count on Mother Nature to remind us that she's in charge and that we're just along for the ride.